Hey there, welcome to Takeaway with Sam Oches, a podcast from Nation's Restaurant News. I am Sam Oches, editor-in-chief here at NRN, and this is the show where I give you an all-access pass to the restaurant industry's most influential decision makers. This week, I'm talking with Caroline Skinner. She is the Chief Operating Officer of Tupelo Honey, a casual concept based in Asheville, North Carolina, that's highlighting the rich tradition of Southern cuisine in soon-to-be 23 units around the country. Caroline has spent the past several years building Tupelo Honey's culture, developing its employee benefits, and enhancing its recruitment and retention. And she joined the podcast to talk about how to be an employer of choice and how Tupelo Honey is delivering Southern hospitality to other corners of the country through its unique culture. In this conversation, you will learn more about why your recruitment message to potential employees should be simple, why you should promote your GMs from within, and why you should give your most loyal guests something special and unexpected. Jumping now into my conversation with Caroline Skinner, the Chief Operating Officer of Tupelo Honey. Also, don't forget to stick around after the interview as I will share my 7 takeaways from this discussion, actionable insights that you can take with you on the go. Have you heard about the California Food Service Instant Rebate Program? You can save up to $3,000 instantly on energy-efficient food service equipment when you purchase from participating dealers. Find out more at www.caenergywise.com/instant-rebates and find a participating dealer near you. Skip the paperwork and save instantly on your food service equipment. That's www.caenergywise.com/instant-rebates. Okay, Caroline Skinner, the Chief Operating Officer of Tupelo Honey out of Asheville, North Carolina. Caroline, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today. I'm excited to talk to you about Tupelo Honey. This is a really exciting brand, really delicious brand, I might add, that you guys are scaling quite a bit. And Caroline, I know you're really responsible for labor, for retention, for culture, and we're going to dig into all of that. But for those folks listening who maybe have not heard of Tupelo Honey, give us a little rundown of what this brand is all about.
Yeah, first, thank you, Sam, and thanks for having us on to share about our brand. Tupelo Honey is Southern food. We pride ourselves in being scratch made and really originally based out of Asheville, North Carolina, as you said, kind of rooted in this Appalachian mountain North Carolina cuisine. And our purpose, our opportunity is to spread this beautiful scratch made delicious food and true Southern hospitality all over the country.
And so you're at 23 locations today, is that right?
Right now we're at 22. We have our 23rd in June. We're in 14 different states. So really we're spread as far as Boise, Idaho to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, all across the country. And we most recently just opened in Indianapolis, Indiana on April the 4th.
Incredible. Well, congrats on that success. So your role as Chief Operating Officer, you're obviously responsible for the operations and labor being so key to that. Tell me about the situation with labor today at Tupelo Honey. I mean, I imagine you guys are struggling just like everybody else is struggling and have been for the last couple of years. But where do you feel like the brand is at with labor today?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the last 3 years have been challenging for everybody. And coming out of the pandemic, I know staffing was a high on everybody's mind and priority list. For us, though, I do feel like we're enjoying this really sweet spot. I've been with the company, the brand, about 10 years. And as a small and up-and-coming brand, it's often hard to get your message out, especially when you're competing with bigger brands about how you treat your employees, the benefits you have to offer. And I do feel like over the past, let's just say 6 months, and perhaps part of that's part of our growth and expansion, but the message is really starting to resonate. So for us, I think we're really enjoying kind of the benefits of the last 10 years of making a really dedicated effort to being a brand that puts our employees first. And labor, while it has its challenges, I think we're seeing higher talent levels. I think we're seeing longer term committed employees, and we're certainly enjoying some of the benefits in terms of retention, especially of our leaders. Right now, our average general manager tenure in the company is about 6 years. And so, we're seeing this long-term commitment that is kind of starting to catch momentum.
Yeah, it's incredible. Has it changed at all in the last couple of years? I mean, because of the various, obviously, you had COVID and then so many other things that have been thrown at you in the last 3 years. Have you been forced to evolve your approach to hiring, retention, and those kinds of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we, like everybody, had many, many pivots throughout the pandemic. I think one thing this brand has always done really well when it comes to people is we've taken the approach of, let's take the first mover advantage in every possible area. And not always have we gotten credit for that, but even going back 10 years ago, we were launching things like our fair start wage, which is a base minimum wage for all of our employees, comprehensive benefits. But then coming out of the pandemic, really recognizing the need of the workforce is different and changing and evolving. And there's so many other industries that we're now competing with for workers, whether that's the gig economy, the delivery drivers. And so really restaurants reputationally, I think, had some recovering to do. And so we're coming out of the pandemic, I think, stronger than ever from a culture standpoint, from an employee benefit standpoint. We certainly elevated many of our key benefits, but we also introduced some new things. One of the biggest that we introduced is a program called our Biscuits for a Cause Fund. And the fund was really designed at the onset when the pandemic hit. And we, like everybody, we're a full service dining company. We went to takeout only, impacted about 90% of our sales initially. And when we were brainstorming this to go model, we came across one of our signature products, our biscuits, which had always been historically, offered free with the meal. We said, what are we going to do about this when we go to takeout? Not everybody wants a biscuit to go take out, but it's certainly an item that we're well known for. And as we started to brainstorm, of course, heavy on our hearts were our employees. And we said, well, what if, we take all the profits from this biscuit, we actually charge a dollar amount for it, and we allocate the profits to a fund that would go 100% to our employees. And to date, the last 3 years, that fund has raised about $600,000. We've allocated it for different purposes. And certainly in the beginning, it was heavily geared towards team members impacted by COVID. But it's been such a great thing for us, and coming out really strong and saying, we're going to support our employees, whether you're actively working with us, whether you're working to come back to work for us. Making that big investment was really important.
Absolutely. And obviously part of, I assume you mentioned that word culture, obviously something we all think about, the culture of your workplace, and a move like that, I imagine, helps if you make that culture feel like a family, certainly like a team. Tell me how else would you describe the culture at Tupelo Honey, and what are some other things you're doing to invest in that culture?
Yeah, I mean, we came out of the pandemic with a mantra that really resonated, and it wasn't even on purpose, but we had the mantra of one team, and it really just the idea of, our business model sort of broken down to the bare bones. We were still getting food out, and it was in a different way, but it was getting food out to the guest and making sure that we were still spreading joy. We were still creating moments of hospitality. We were still greeting people with a smile, even if the smile was covered with a mask, and making sure that it was kind of authentic. And I think that moment really translated something special for our team. And in terms of the culture, what we learned through the pandemic was, communication is so critically important. And that goes, top down from your leadership to your frontline workers. They have to know why you're doing what you're doing. And when there was so many pivots going on, literally every week we would be changing and reacting to different restrictions or different guidelines. We found that communication was really key. And we did that with our leadership team, face to face as much as we could, and then Zoom when we couldn't. And then with our hourly workforce, of course, we wanted our leaders of our restaurants to communicate, but we would also do pulse check-ins, whether that's quick survey text or a quick update or, a big announcement, making sure that there's constant communication. And I think team members really valued that, and also having an opportunity to be heard and to hear what's important to them. And we've certainly launched some initiatives recently based on priorities that our team members have brought to us.
Mm. Obviously, I imagine that helps with retention. How about recruitment? in particular, what are some ways that you recruit folks to the Tupelo Honey brand? I mean, the competition for talent right now is insane, but cooling down, I think, from where it was in 21 and 22, but still very competitive, and especially in the full service side of things, you really want top talent. So how do you make sure you're recruiting those folks who can be that talent for you?
Yeah, I think part of what we've done really well over the last couple of years is having, when it comes to recruiting, having messages that are simple and that they really resonate. So instead of trying to talk about every aspect of our benefits program, we have a catch-all name called the Honey Pot program. And it's cute and it's on brand, but really the Honey Pot program at its core is designed to be this pot of benefits that depending on where you are in your life, you might access something like tuition reimbursement. You might access something like family leave, but it's designed to be this pot of benefits that you can literally kind of like a honeypot dip into as needed and know, no matter what my circumstances or no matter where I am in life, there's going to be something for me. So I think having a really simple message that's on brand and fun has been a helpful way that we've kind of gotten our benefits to stick.
Mm,
Um, and then I think you have to make sure, from the recruiting side, it's one thing to have a really strong message, but and this is where my background is actually a little bit in the HR realm. So I've done both of these things, and transitioning into operations, it has been amazing to me to kind of marry up the message that you're going to have on that recruiting front for employees with what their actual experience is in the operation and in the field. And so some of the things that we've been focused on lately is, what are our scheduling practices? It's one thing to advocate, we can have great work-life balance or we can have great scheduling, but if we're constantly changing the schedule on a team member, every day or, 2 days ahead of when they're supposed to work, that doesn't reflect that value.
mm.
So we've been really focused on how can we get our operational practices to marry up to that employee message. In the scheduling world, we're trying to get schedules posted 2 weeks in advance so a team member can actually plan for their life. And that's a little bit unheard of in this industry. It's always been
Yeah.
a react to the business and your team members will follow. But those are the kind of adaptations that I think are becoming more and more necessary to keep a strong workforce.
Sure. So, as I understand it here, more than 60% of your management positions are filled from within the company, which is great. Obviously, I imagine you're demonstrating to employees that there is a path for them. How do you show them that there's a career for them? I think this is a real hurdle for so many in this industry to say, hey, this isn't just a part-time job. It can be if you want it to be. It isn't just your way to pay through college. It can be a lifelong destination for you. How do you demonstrate that message to Tupelo Honey employees? How do you show that this is possible for them?
Yeah, well, and I think it is a challenge within this industry so much because historically we've kind of geared ourselves around younger workers, up and coming workers who have more life flexibility, and creating that commitment to a long-term career in this industry really also takes a company recognizing that people are going to go through different like life circumstances. They're going to maybe be finishing school, maybe have children, maybe have parents they have to take care of. And all of these things are part of, the life cycle of an employee. So I think the first step for us was to recognize, we really want to make this a career oriented company and a career oriented place somewhere where people can plant their roots and grow from. And then, accommodating those different like life circumstances, whether that be, they have children, they have a family. We introduced this past year an operating partner program. And one of the things when you achieve that level of status for our company is you can choose a 4 week sabbatical or every 2 weekends off a month. And it's a way for this industry that's historically weekend heavy, that's historically, non-traditional hours for people to kind of have that balance in their life, to be there, to see their kids' games and things like that. And that's really important to us. And I think our core leadership has seen that commitment from us and from our leaders, and also just being available to support people when things come up in life.
Hmm. You mentioned that general managers, you said average tenure was 6 years, which is incredible. Tell me about that position in particular. We've done a lot of content recently on this position. We just rolled out our power list on general managers. We hear so much these days that this is really the most powerful person in your organization because they're the ones that are activating your strategy at the store level, driving customer service, unit economics, team culture. How are you focused on that position in particular? How do you manage to get people to stick around for an average of 6 years in that position? Obviously, even longer than that. What does that look like?
So important. And I think, one of the key reasons that we've been able to grow is, yes, we promote from within, but we're particularly focused on promoting those general managers from within because they understand the culture and they're the ones making it a great place to work for their team members. And if you want to talk about great retention, it really, it's not anything we're necessarily going to do here. We can have the programs, we can have the benefits, but that general manager is going to be the one that's really going to decide whether a team member stays or goes. So for us, a lot of the things that we've been doing center around, again, good communication and making sure that they understand why and they understand the purpose of what we're doing. But also gathering them together. We just went through our second annual General Manager Summit, bringing them all together, and in conjunction with our vendor partners too, which is pretty cool. It's just a great opportunity for them to share, hey, I work in this location, I'm going through similar challenges, struggles, but be connected more broadly to the company and be connected more broadly to our purpose, to our vendors, to some of the stories that we want them to tell.
Hmm.
And so that position is key. I think one of the things that they drive that's especially important is the guest experience. And we also think about that position in a much more empowered way than I think a lot of brands. And so we give them tools, but we really say, this is your business unit. You can make it as great as you want. You can bonus as much as you want. There's really bonuses base level hitting your plan, but how far you take that above and beyond, that's really up to you.
Hmm.
You can make your guest experience as great as you want. And this year we actually launched a program that I'm pretty excited about, general manager driven. It's called our One Guest program. And the whole idea was to empower our managers at the restaurant level to recognize their guests. And the mantra behind it is, how do we recognize regulars and build that relationship with our regulars? And we're using our general managers, of course, their knowledge of who their guests are. And we're saying at a baseline, if you recognize a guest that is important to your business, we've got this whole program designed to really make them feel special, invite them back, and invite them into our one program. Of course, we use technology a little bit too to help them identify, but
Sure.
it's them. They're empowered. And when they invite them, that guest gets all sorts of special things when they come back every single time. So it's a pretty fun program. I'm excited about that one.
So it's like a loyalty program, but you're invited by the staff to participate?
Yeah, it's a
Huh.
grassroots program, and we talked a lot about, marketing and loyalty and this and that. And yes, there's certain things that we do, but this one we really specifically wanted it to be purposeful, that this was operator driven. And in the field, they could recognize a guest in that very moment and say, "Hey, thank you for being a regular here." It actually comes with a little honeybee coin. So we give the guest the coin and we say,
Huh.
you're invited to our one guest program. And with that, you can get access to our secret menu item. You get free appetizers every time you come in. We're hoping to introduce some priority access to reservations and just a real cool way to kind of treat the guests that have been loyal to us for so long.
That is completely a new idea to me. I love that. I love that you
Yeah.
guys are like choosing who gets to be part of your loyalty program. Do you cap how many customers get to be a part of that?
We haven't yet, and we have some built-in mechanisms in our reservation system as well. So about 80% of our guests make reservations. So we're using the reservation system to also serve as a little bit of a flag. If the guest meets certain frequency criteria, they'll get a flag that says, "Hey, this person could be a potential one guest."
Hmm.
But ultimately, we empower the manager because we know not every guest makes reservations. You've got regulars that sit at your bar that just walk in every other day. And we want you to be empowered to say, "Hey, you're a special guest and I want to invite you into this program. And for
Hmm.
us, that's hospitality. And it's a little bit of a surprise and delight. Our big mantra this year has been, spread joy. And it's a really simple idea, but I think that's what hospitality comes down to is, how are we sharing joy with people in our interactions with our food, and a little bit of like, we appreciate you, we recognize you in this moment, and we thank you for being here. And I think that's something you can't really do anymore on an email marketing campaign. It has to be that in-person interaction. And if we're
Yeah.
really talking about bringing joy, that's what we want to empower our managers to do.
Yeah, and not to dwell on it too much. I'm just so impressed by this program. Tell me, do you promote this to customers? Because I can imagine, like, think about customers now trying to be on their best behavior and come in all the time if they know this is a thing, or do you try to keep it like a word of mouth, under wraps kind of thing?
Yeah, it's meant to be a little bit word of mouth, grassroots. Of course, now I'm announcing it on the podcast, so who knows what's going to happen.
That's right.
But really, it's supposed to be that moment of surprise and delight. Like, wow, I would have never expected for a restaurant to even know that I've been here 3 times in 3 months or 6 times in a year, but B, take the time to give me a special little coin and make me feel like, I'm really valued. And that's the goal. We want to blow people away at the door with
Hmm.
hospitality. And when we do that, I think that's the loyalty that we can create. And it really starts with our employees. If they're not passionate, if they're not empowered to do that, it won't happen.
Right. I mean, that to me, that's sort of the ultimate status symbol, right? Like everybody's talking about loyalty in terms of status right now, and especially comparing to the airline industry.
Hmm.
And there's a gamification component to that because if you put that in front of the guest, they're going to try to run up the score so they achieve that status. But you guys are bestowing that status upon them, which to me feels a lot more special. I don't know. It seems like authentic hospitality more so than an inauthentic trying to win the game, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a game they didn't know they were playing, and it's a gift that they didn't know they were coming in to get. And
Yeah.
that is hospitality.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. Coming back to the sort of the GM position and talking broadly about sort of scaling all of this, because you guys are growing, as I understand, you're planning to grow a lot in the next couple of years.
Mhm.
That GM especially. I lived in North Carolina a long time. Tupelo Honey is an institution. My wife and I would go to the original location there in Asheville many, many times. Anytime we we're in town, you don't have to tell people in North Carolina what this brand is all about. But I imagine if you go to Boise, you go to Indianapolis, there's something, you got to really embed the restaurant in the community. And I imagine the GM is playing a big role in that. Tell me about that process. How do you encourage them to get out into the community and tell them, hey, this is what we're all about?
Yeah, I think it is so important. And, Southern hospitality, it's being a good neighbor. And so for us, it really does start with knowing your community, knowing the values of your community. We learned that a lot from our employees, especially when we first opened, where are the important businesses, who are the important leaders. But we take an intentional effort to know the community also from the supply chain side. And so even when we enter a community, we're getting to know the local produce, the local beverage, and we make that a part of our offering because we don't want to be just a company that offers food outside of what's local. And we know that there's great providers within the community. So every time we go into a community, we make an effort to say, great, let's blend a little bit of what we do, a little bit of Southern food with what's offered locally in the community. And so I think that's one of the most important ways we get to know the community. But then outside of that, we really encourage and again empower our managers, starting with general managers, to have intentional relationships. Right now, we just launched a program, and we do our local restaurant marketing centered around certain community institutions. And right now, we're focused on schools. And so the challenge for every operator is to connect with one school. And let's find a way that we can engage them. First, find out what they need. Is it donations? Can we do a fundraiser? Can we share a certain percentage of sales with you? Can we give biscuits? Can we bring it to your PTA? Because these community institutions are so important, but it's also a great way to to connect a little deeper and not just be a restaurant in a box, but a restaurant outside of the box, that really kind of lives and breathes and knows the community. So, for 3 years, or the last 2 years, that's been challenging, but this year is really an effort to get outside the community, get to know your community. And every community has those institutions. So, find the leaders and find the ways to connect with them and find out what they need and be a good neighbor.
Yeah. Well, and more broadly, thinking about culture and scaling it as you grow. I mean, you are there in Asheville. You can't be everywhere at once. All of these programs, these incredible programs you've described, tell me about the process of scaling them and getting them into all the locations as you grow and making sure things don't get off the rails or not, or maybe, translate poorly to locations that are, further flung from North Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, we want to create the guardrails, and then this brand has always been one that's independent spirit and trusting that the people that we hire, they care enough about the business, they care enough about the brand, and they're passionate ambassadors. That's why they're in the position that they're going to take those guardrails and then put their independent local market, local restaurant spirit to that. Because you can't really deliver authentic hospitality without it being individual and customized. And so that's going to look different in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina than it is Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so we're going to have the guardrails, and we're going to say, these are the places that we recommend that you reach out to, and this is the structure to the program, and here's some ways that you can give. But it's really up to you to establish those relationships. And same go for the guest program. We have the parameters of the program. Here's what the guest gets, but it's up to you to invite them. It's up to you to identify them. It's up to you to initiate that relationship. And really, at the heart of it, we can't fake a relationship, and we can't build relationships from a corporate office. That's just not going to happen. And so important that these operational leaders are empowered to do that at their local level.
Yeah, that's great. Word of the year right now is efficiency. I feel like I'm talking about it with everybody right now, and so I'll talk about it with you. All these things we've been talking about are related to people, and when you think about efficiency and especially the trends in technology, I think a lot of people would say, "Oh, efficiency is replacing the people with the technology to do it better and faster." What does efficiency mean to you? Because I imagine it's not replacing the people, considering all that we've talked about hospitality here, but you must be thinking about it. So what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think for us, it has really been, starting with the pandemic, a journey of building smarter. And when I say smarter, that kind of comes down to things like our menu decision making. How can we take a product that's made from scratch, that's delicious, an ingredient that we love, and better cross utilize it across the menu? How can we build our lines to support our team members so that, instead of taking 5 steps to get an ingredient, maybe they're taking 3 steps, and also support the guests because we're getting food out faster and hotter and fresher. And so I think it's those little tweaks along the way that we've been looking at and really refining. And I think the reason efficiency is coming up in some ways is out of necessity, because restaurants are finding they're having to pay more wages, have higher benefits. And we've kind of unlocked that key a long time ago. And so for us, it's honing in on what we already are doing really well, and simplifying how much we're asking of our team members and saying, we want you to focus on the guests. We want you to focus on great food. And we're going to do everything in our power to make the rest of it as easy as possible.
That's really interesting. Thinking through the rest of the year, what do you expect? All of these trends in technology and certainly a lot of the trends around labor that have been so much a part of the conversation the last couple of years. Where do you see all this going? I mean, what are you spending most of your time thinking about as you try to look ahead of the curve?
Yeah, I mean, I do think there is value, and we're seeing value, just like I mentioned at our host stand, in finding ways to use technology to really enhance the guest experience, and recognize those guests that come to you more often, and that's hard to do if you're not there 24/7. And so using technology to say, hey, here's a guest that's visited you 6 times in the last year. That's a great example of, technology is providing a role to gain insight, to add value, and to enhance that relationship, to enhance that in-person experience. Same for our training. We have taken great lengths over the past couple of years to really hone into what we already do, but educating our staff better around it so they can be more knowledgeable when they talk to the guests. And bringing in stories. I think storytelling is a huge part of Southern culture in general. And so our brand has a story, but also we have a supply chain of vendors and products that have stories, and teaching our people, whether that's, giving them tools and videos and sharing information using technology, I think is a great way, again, to enhance the guest experience, because we're elevating knowledge. And for the chefs, you're elevating pride in what they do, because they're recognizing that, wow, this ingredient, it has a story. It represents, scratch made family food, a brand that I can be proud of. And, that means something to people.
Yeah, and related to that, I mean, how do you want Tupelo Honey to be perceived from the outside, from the hospitality, labor, employee standpoint, for folks engaging with this brand? How do you hope for them to perceive the brand?
Yeah, I think obviously we want our guests to feel welcomed and like we're spreading joy, we're spreading great food. For our employees, we want them to feel a sense of passion. We want them to feel a sense of independent, authentic to what we do, and that they can be who they are, and have some guardrails, but also bring their best self to work every day. And it's not going to be the same as the person next to them, and that's okay.
Right, right. That's great. Caroline, last question for you. For anybody listening right now who wants to improve the status of their culture, anybody who wants to improve their retention, their recruitment efforts, anything like that, what's your advice to them? What are just a few tips you would give folks to focus on right now, the things you would prioritize in order to do those things?
I think the first one is listen. Listen to the current employees that you have. I think we often get caught up in, as leaders, the vision of what we want to do or what the future needs. And, we forget that we're surrounded by people that, every day are in front of our guests or cooking our food. And if we just take the time to listen, I think there's so much that you can learn from your current employees about what they need and what they want. I think the other one is over communicate. And in this environment, I think there's no amount of communication that's too much, especially when things are changing so quickly. You're having to adapt. You've got to communicate, and you've got to communicate a why. Otherwise, you look like you're just doing things for the sake of doing things. And I think the last one, this one's probably the most important one that we've done, is keep your promises, even when it's hard. And in the last 10 years, especially the last 3 years, there's been some really hard times of keeping our promises to our employees, and looking at the P&L and saying, oh, this is going to get a little uncomfortable. But if you're always prioritizing your employees at the top of that list, they're going to pay you back, because they're going to remember those moments that, it got hard, it got uncomfortable, but you didn't compromise. And I think we're actually benefiting from 10-year commitment to saying we're doing the right thing for our people. And now, the larger recruiting landscape and even, people in bigger brands are starting to notice that. And so, keep your promises. That's pretty simple.
It's great. That's how you build trust, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Caroline Skinner, Chief Operating Officer of Tupelo Honey, thanks so much for joining today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Sam.
Have you heard about the California Food Service Instant Rebate Program? You can save up to $3,000 instantly on energy-efficient food service equipment when you purchase from participating dealers. Find out more at www.caenergywise.com/instant-rebates and find a participating dealer near you. Skip the paperwork and save instantly on your food service equipment. That's www.caenergywise.com/instant-rebates. That was my interview with Caroline Skinner, the Chief Operating Officer of Tupelo Honey. So what should you learn from this interview? Here are my 7 takeaways. My first takeaway is that better benefits equal better retention. Probably a no-brainer, but it bears repeating. Better benefits equal better retention. Employees want to be taken care of. They want to be able to have fair pay. They want to be able to have insurance. And if you can't offer them some of those things, they're going to go look elsewhere for them. Tupelo Honey is a great example. As Caroline explained, they have medical and dental insurance, paid time off, tuition reimbursements, and much more when it comes to their benefits. They also offer a $15 minimum wage base. Every employee makes at least $15 an hour, no matter what location, what city they're in. And it's leading to retention. Their general manager, the average tenure for a general manager is 6 years. And across the board, they're just generally seeing people stick around longer because those employees feel like they're getting the benefits that they need. My second takeaway is that your recruitment message should be simple. Tupelo Honey has this thing called the Honey Pot program, which is their benefits package. And as Caroline talked about, this Honey Pot program is really how they build all of the messaging around these enhanced benefits that Tupelo Honey offers. All of it comes back to this idea of the honey pot. Instead of listing all of these benefits that you can get by working at Tupelo Honey, if you just try to simplify that message and say, in this honey pot, you will be taken care of. That's a easier message to get across to your potential employees than if you got into all the specifics with all of the kind of wonky language that people might not even understand. Keep it simple. Appeal to potential employees by telling them how great it is to work there and how great the benefits are. Keep that messaging simple. I think it's going to resonate a lot better with them, as Tupelo Honey has proven. My third takeaway is that if you want employees to stick around, provide them with balance in their lives. So, of course, great benefits, but also balance is really important as well. And what I mean by balance is helping them figure out how to have a work-life balance, that they're not working so many hours that they never get a chance to see their family. If it's a mother who's trying to figure out scheduling for her children, help her to figure out how to do that. Again, this is a benefit in itself, is striking that balance. Nobody wants to be overworked. Nobody wants to hate their job. And if you get out of balance, if you're working too much or your job is taking over your life, you're not going to want to stay there. Therefore, if you want them to stick around, if they want to stay there, they need to feel like they have that balance in their lives. Tupelo Honey offers their operating partners either 4-week sabbaticals every year or 2 weekends off per month. That is a great example of how you can offer that balance in a way that is so appealing that people want to stick around because they can't get something like that in other places. My fourth takeaway is that you should promote your general managers from within because they are key to retention. This, again, another one that you probably already know, but it's really worth thinking about this even more as you try to improve your retention. Your general manager is key to that. And by promoting people from within your own company, you're promoting people who are familiar with your culture. They know what the company is all about. They know how to make this a great place to work. And that is going to trickle down to the other employees who want to stick around. The other thing is they're going to see the general managers who were promoted from within, who were in their footsteps before, and they're going to see a career trajectory for them. Try to promote in your general manager positions, try to promote people from within your own company because they're going to be the best at being able to deliver that great culture and opportunity to their teams. One last thing I'll say about this is Tupelo Honey, they hold a GM summit for the general managers to bring them all together, communicate with them, build into them that culture so that as they go out to their other cities and their teams across the country, they can bring that culture to their teams and, again, really improve that retention. My fifth takeaway is that your most loyal guests deserve something special and unexpected. I kind of geeked out on this in the conversation, but for good reason, and that is Tupelo Honey's One Guest program. I really like this program. I think it's really cool because it's kind of like a loyalty program, but it's kind of flipped. It's not a typical loyalty program. As you might remember, operating partners managers are able to choose their loyal guests, people who come into their Tupelo Honey location again and again, and give them a little honeybee coin that signifies that they are a special guest and that they get cool exclusive stuff. They get free appetizers. They get secret menu items. They get special treatment. This is like the ultimate hospitality experience, but the power is in the hand of the manager and the restaurant employee. And I really like that because, again, in a way, it's like a loyalty program. If you're a part of this little club, you get the special things, but you have to be chosen by the restaurant to get that. And again, this is really cool because it empowers the employees to be able to have that, make that decision and to recognize their favorite customers. But it's also really a great opportunity for those teams to demonstrate hospitality. And finally, I think it's just great for word of mouth. And I kind of pride on this a little bit with Caroline, but what if word gets out and everybody wants to do it and they all come in more to Tupelo Honey just to try to get that honeybee coin? Maybe that's a good problem to have because, again, it's building that word of mouth and people want to be a part of these exclusive clubs, which is what loyalty programs ultimately are all about. My sixth takeaway is that you can't fake relationships or build them from the corporate office. And that's why these GMs are so crucial to success of your company. By the way, that's kind of a direct quote from Caroline that I really did appreciate. And that is the fact that the relationship building that's so key to the hospitality industry, that has to be activated at the store level, which means your general managers have to be the ones in charge of it, especially for a company like Tupelo Honey with 23 locations that are pretty far flung from Asheville all the way to Boise. You have to rely on those, the boots on the ground, your general managers, to build relationships with customers and to deliver that hospitality. If Caroline and her team in Asheville were trying to do that in Boise and in Indianapolis and in these other cities where they've grown to, it would come across as fake. So they give guardrails to their general managers to show them, here's how you can build this community and reach out into the community. Here's how you deliver this hospitality. Here's how you build relationships. Now go. You empower them to do it themselves, and they're going to build those authentic relationships that ultimately lead to loyal consumers. My seventh and final takeaway is that you should keep your promises with your employees and don't compromise. I really appreciated this tip that Caroline gave at the end of our conversation because at the end of the day, you want to build trust with your employees. If you want them to stick around, they need to trust you and they need to feel like they're in a trusting environment. That starts with listening to them, but then it ends with keeping your promises to them. So if you tell them you're going to do something, do it. Don't compromise. Don't cut corners. They're looking to you to uphold your end of the bargain. And if you do that, they will trust you. They will respect you. They'll want to stick around. So if you want to build your own retention at your restaurant, start by listening to your employees. But really, again, that tip from Caroline is keep your promises and don't compromise, because that is a terrible way. It's a fast way to ruin the trust you have with your employees. Those are all my takeaways for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe to Takeaway wherever you listen to podcasts and leave your feedback. You can also email me at sam.oches@informa.com. Thanks again and talk to you next week.